Hey, welcome to the in-depth tutorial of our yearly budget planner. When you open the file, you will land in this guide. It has a 3 steps quick start guide, which helps you to immediately start budgeting with only 3 simple steps. In this video, we will go into more details and get you an in-depth walkthrough for each tab and each function the budget planner offers. Let's get started. First, let's walk through which parts the planner has. Besides of the guide, we have a transaction tab where we record all the income and expenses. We have a year setup tab where you can record all recurring and non-recurring transactions that you have for the year. You can also set up the year when you would like to start your budgeting year. And you also can set up your financial goals for this year. We will get back to these later. There is a yearly dashboard where you can overview of all the yearly spendings and incomes with detailed analysis and tools. Again, we'll come back to this. Then we have a calendar view where you can see for a monthly period in daily breakdown what incomes and spendings you have for each day, how you can plan for daily and weekly basis. Then there are the monthly tabs where for each month within your budgeting year you can add further plans and you can see the progress of your budget within that month. And then we have finally a categories tab where you can customize and fine-tune the categories for your budget. Let's go through all the tabs in detail. First, let's look at the categories tab. The categories tab lists all the 6 main categories that the yearly budget planner has, such as income, bills, expenses, savings, investments, and debt clearing. These main category titles cannot be changed, but anything within these categories can be changed. You can add your categories, you can remove the ones that are pre-added, and also you can change them. So for example, for income, I can remove all the subcategories and I can add mine instead. Same, I can change any of the subcategories such as this. And the only limit for changing, adding or removing these subcategories is the size of these boxes. So you can only add as much as you can fit in these boxes. Finally, we recommend to make these changes to the subcategories in the beginning before you start the planning. You can always, of course, add new ones. You can also change or remove the ones that you haven't used yet in the planner. The only thing to look out for, and the reason why we recommend to do this in the beginning, is that if you use a given subcategories in the planner, then if you would change or remove it, that would cause the planner to work in unexpected ways. So therefore, we recommend to start with changing the subcategories if you would like to. We also provide a generic subcategory collection that is cover most needs, but if you'd like to customize, then it's good to do that in the beginning. Next, let's look at the year setup tab. Here, as a first step, you can pick your start date. It can be any date in any year. It's completely up to you. There is no limitation, so pick whatever works best for you. Once you have picked the date, you see here on the right side there is a handful guide which tells you which tab is for which time period. So for example, if I want to see end of August, I can see from this tab that I need to go to one step number 5, which I can find here. So I go there and there's August. Next, and there is a monthly recurring transactions. Here you can record every recurring transaction that is periodic, so either for the whole year or for individual months. It can be either an income, it can also be any type of spending. So for example, if my rent is always due on the 15th, so I can put that here and then also the amount, and that will fill out the rent for the whole year. This will also put the plan for this type of expense throughout my respective monthly tabs, which we will see later. If there is a difference for a given month, so let's say in July I will have to pay the rent not on the 15th but on the 18th, then I can simply double click here, and from this particular calendar I can move it to the 18th. I can also change the amount if for a given month it's different. Please note though that once you do a change for a given month, it will stop following the yearly plan. So even if my rent is raised or I just made a typo, if I change it, it will change every other month, but not the one that I already updated manually. Similarly, I can add any other incomes or spendings that is recurring on a monthly basis. All I need to do, as you have seen, is just to pick the type of expense and then add an amount and the date. All right, let's look further what else we can do here. So next is the non-monthly transactions. These are transactions that are not recurring or not recurring on a monthly basis. You can pick them and then you can add an amount. So I'm gonna win 2,000 on the lottery next month. And there you go. So again, these are for any kind of planned transactions, either income or spending, that has a planned date and the planned amount, but it's not recurring, or at least not recurring on a monthly basis. So I can add more of these with a different date. And if we look at the respective tab, you can see here that all the recurring and non-recurring transactions have been recorded. So here are the recurring ones that we set for every month, and my lottery is for the previous tab. So we see here my lottery is expected for the period between the 18th of July and the 17th of August. Okay, and finally, we can record some financial goals for this year. We think it's very important because setting goals will help you motivate yourself to achieve them, and all statistics shows that people who set goals are more successful in reaching those goals. To make it more engaging, we have collected a set of stickers that help you to illustrate these goals and just makes the planning more fun. So all you need to do is pick one of the cells, then add your financial goal, and then you can pick your sticker and pull it into the planner part. That's all for the Year Setup tab. Next, let's look at the Transactions tab. On this tab, you can pick your currency. All you need to do is to click on this drop-down and start typing the name of your currency, and then pick from the filtered list. As you see, once you pick a currency, it gets updated, and it gets updated on every tab. For this tutorial, let's keep using US dollars. The next section is about the actual money movements. So whenever you get money or you spend money, you would come here and record that here. It is for the whole year, so it has a lots of lines to support all the data, and you can also add more lines if you need to. To add any income or spending, you double click on the date, pick the date of the spending from the calendar. Let's say we are adding the rent. Then you add the amount, and then you pick the type of the income or spending that you have got or spent. Here in the last column you can add some note if you would like to clarify something. And that's it. So I will add a few more income and expense here for the sake of being able to show the details of the planner on this tutorial. All right. Next, let's look at the monthly tab and how all this data will get populated. So here is our first monthly tab, where most of this data that we have input will show up because of the period. And here at the top left corner, we have put a quick, most important info block that shows the actual values. So for total income, this is the actual income that we have recorded in transactions. And then this amount is the left to spend amount based on our actual expenses and our actual income. The next section is a quick summary of the month based on first the start date is shown and then the starting balance. For the very first month tab that we have here, this is an actual input that you can add. So let's say we have a carryover of $500 from our previous year, then we can input here. But for every following monthly tab, this is an input that is carried over from the previous tab. So here, as we see, we have left to spend $1,167. This will be the actual starting balance for our next month, and so on. And then still for the monthly overview part, we see here a summary for each main category, our planned incomes and spendings, and our actual ones that come from, respectively, the planned ones come from the year plan and some part of the monthly plan that we will see soon, and the actual ones all come from the transactions tab, and the total for both the planned and actual net amounts based on the spendings and the income. Then we have a short section to record your financial goals, again for the month. And then we have a few sections here that shows the main categories and the subcategories within each main category. So these have two parts. Most of them have an expected and an actual. The expected being the planned ones, and most of these expected ones come from the year plan. That is true for the bills, the debt clearing, the income, and the investments, because these are typically planned and regular spendings and incomes. But for the expenses and the savings, we don't pull those from the year setup, because typically these are more ad hoc and granulars. So for those, you can just simply input the plan that you have for that particular month and that particular subcategory. So for example, for this month, you plan to have an expenditure in the amount of 200, you can just input there. Technically, you can do that for the categories that are pulled in from the year setup. So for example, for bills as well, you can simply overwrite the value there. Please note though that if you do overwrite, then it does not anymore pull for that month and for that subcategory from the year setup. If you do any later changes to the year setup, that affects this category in this month that will not be updated here after you override the value. There is a monthly total as well for each category, each main category at the bottom, so that you know the total plan and the total actual income or spending. For the bills, there are a few special fields, so you can add the due date so that you know when you have to pay that bill. That helps you to keep track of your spendings and to not miss any deadline. Another helpful tool here that I really like is this checkbox, which if you have paid that particular bill, you can just tick it off, and then it shows you that this bill has already been paid and you don't need to pay it anymore. Finally, there are a few helpful tools here at the top that helps you to have a quick overview of your budget for that month. And that is the spendable funds that shows you the actual left to spend amount and also what you have actually spent. So that gives you a brief overview of what you can budget with. And then there is also a spending breakdown. Again, this is for the actual spendings that shows for which category you have spent how much percent of your spendings. And finally, there is a tool to help you to see how good you are with the planning, to be able to compare the planned and the actual incomes or spendings by each main category. And that is it for our monthly tab. Still in the monthly level, let's look at our calendar tab. This is a different way to look at your monthly plans and spendings. Here you can pick any date, so it doesn't have to be the first of any month, it can be the 15th or any other date as well. It will render you a calendar starting from the week of your selected date and with the selected start day of the week. It will show the plan for this month. So as you see, this is pulling the data from the year setup. It will show for each day what you do have to pay based on your plan. And that will cover the whole month starting from the start day. It will show a bit before and after based on your selected day to give you a bit of context. You can also have here an overview, which again just shows you the plans for that month and also including the amount and the date that those are due. Last but not least, let's look at the yearly dashboard. We have packed here a bunch of tools that will help you optimize and drive your budget and eventually reach all your financial goals. At the top section, we have collected the monthly overview tools. First of all, you can see the actual numbers for the summarized yearly and monthly total of incomes, spendings, and then the closing balance for each month and the whole year. In these charts, the same data is visualized, so you can see your monthly income and spending. Again, actual numbers, totals for a month, and then the closing balance for each month throughout the year. If you want to drill into the spendings throughout the whole year, then we have provided a few tools for that as well. First of all, you can see here on the spendings on the main category level. So each of your main categories are listed here with all the yearly total spending for them. And the same data you can see in this pie chart where you can see the percentage as well. If you want to go even one level deeper, you can walk through all of these breakdowns where we have summarized the yearly spendings for each of the categories within the main categories. And then you can see this data in these tables and then these pie charts for every category type. The next tool is still about spendings. It summarizes the top spendings. Here on the left-hand side, from highest to lowest, it lists the top 27 spending throughout the whole year and throughout every category. If you want to zoom in one of the categories, then you can use this one, select any of the categories, and then see the top spendings throughout the year for that specific category. And then finally, for the spendings, there is one more thing we provide, which is the spending timeline. Here you can see still the main categories, but it's broken down to every month. And then you can see this data here again in a table and in this chart. And then finally, we provide some table and chart information to look into your incomes. First of all, by income category, you can see all the actual, the planned, and the comparison between the actual and the planned for the whole year. And then you can see a monthly breakdown for every month throughout the year for every income category. And here at the end, you can see a few charts about the income still. You can see a breakdown which analyzes the income composition for the whole year through the categories. Then there is a comparison between the plan and the realized incomes by types. And finally, there is an income composition again by month throughout the whole year, where you can see which month, which income source contributed to your overall income. That concludes our guide. Thanks for watching. Happy budgeting, and please reach out to us if you have any questions.